brother Gerard, the archivist. So we've been doing some historic research on who's buried here. There were approximately 120 tombstones still left, being marble or concrete. All the old wooden ones have deteriorated and gone, but we've worked through all the plans for those who have passed away from about 7 different sources, and we find there's over 1,000 people buried here. We started with 120 and we went up to 300 to 400 to 7. There's over 30 Maori graves here, so it's obviously an old grave site from the very first days of the settlement. And it's all Catholic. Governor Grey allocated this to Bishop Pompallier, who he met in Wellington here, and the next day the bishop came and blessed it, and then the Anglicans and the other religions came down to Bolton Street. So this is the beginning of the Catholic history of Wellington. 65th Regiment soldiers from Ireland were here, and the English officers, and there's quite a few of those buried here too. So the British High Commission has been helping and is interested, and there's some other Frenchmen here, some from South America, quite a wide variety of early settlers, many of whom drowned. That seemed to be the #1 cause of death in the early days, was by drowning. Quite narrow pathways, and then we have burial plots all through here, and we're looking forward to trying to be able to identify who may be buried here. When we come to the military section of the grave in this particular place here, on this particular promontory we've got 2 other English officers. This is probably the oldest one in the cemetery that we've been able to find so far. Unfortunately the inscriptions are somewhat hard to read, but we do have some names on some of the early maps. This is Captain Christopher Rattigan, and that's from quite early on. He has the crown up here at the top of the grave, symbolising that's taken from the 65th Regiment officers insignia. That's a much older one. It has a scroll on top, but these fortunately have survived. They're all covered over with grass and leaves and things, so that more or less protected them to a certain extent. Now we have the task of outlining the graves, and the 65th Regiment is still of great interest to the English Army. So the British High Commission have been able to come and have a look at it. Some of their visiting English soldiers were here recently and came and helped us to just take the leaves and things off top, and they are going to help us to restore some of these graves. The Gibbs family is one of the older ones here, 1882, and some of the Gibbs family joined. There were some priests and some sisters, quite a few vocations from that family. Here a tree began to grow within the grave, and so we've finally been able to, it was a large holly tree, and so we've finally been able to take it down, and an Irish yew tree growing out of that grave up there, so we've been able to take that out now. One of the earliest Catholic families who came to New Zealand within the government was the Johnson family. The Goring Johnson family are from Sussex in England, and Mr. Johnson came out as a member of the Legislative Council, and so his descendants are here. It also has a contact with their original home was in the Manawatu at a place called Haydn, where the Marist fathers had a novitiate for 25 years. This is an example of the type of grave where an excavation is made into the hillside and the coffin is laid inside and closed over. You have some steps here, and even a remnant of some of the wooden surround has survived. And that was a burial from 1881. Nicholas Barnard Murphy from Wexford in Ireland. We have got some survey pigs here. That's a pathway. We've had underground radar. A survey was done, and the underground radar as it's taken around, indicates where there have been excavations, and so we're able to locate underground wherever there's been a burial. We've only done a very small amount of the cemetery so far, and the whole area will eventually be surveyed, and every excavation will be compared to the plans that we have. It's unfortunate that most of the headstones are gone, but we do have 5 different plans of the cemetery, so we can probably tell where the surname is probably of the ancestors and where they're probably buried. A Catholic priest in Wellington, who was Father Jeremiah Purcell O'Reilly. He came from County Cork, a member of the Capuchin order. He built the first chapel down on Walcott Street and extended it, had a little classroom, and he lived in the back of that church until the day he died, after a number of years. He both came to Wellington and passed away here. We have a wonderful photo from 1849 to 1940, when the centennial was on, with quite a number of bishops from around the world who came to celebrate the Catholic centenary, and they were up here too. Since then, the trees have grown up, and we have a completely new and different view. But this is our heritage, the Catholic heritage of Wellington. This one here has a naval background. Captain Charles Sharp of the Indian Navy died in July 1880, age 74, and his wife. So here we have a very distinctive anchor and cross with the captain's tombstone here from the Indian Navy. Now.
Ah, yes.
As you can see, Salvatore and Rebecca Cimino, 1855, so that's quite early. Some of the first Italian settlers, and it's a very beautiful, typical Italian monument.
Mary Ann Agnesbury, the Dustin Maxwell and Teresa Walsh.
Yeah.
I'll come and clean that in a minute.
This is a particularly interesting one because these sisters are buried here. Sister Mary Teresa Walsh, who died in 1860, she was with Bishop Pompelia in Auckland with the other 3 or 4 first Mercy sisters to come to New Zealand, and she came to Wellington with Bishop Viard, and the Mercy sisters came and began their education ministry in Wellington.
That's right.
Sister Mary Gore is here, and the decorations are from a recent celebration that the girls from St Mary's College came up, and it was, what was it about, Sister?
160 years since Catholic education began on the site where St Mary's College is now. Yes, and that's what we were celebrating a few weeks ago.
Right. So that was, then there's a much bigger sister's grave up, just up over there. Another connection with Pompelia is a very special one, just down over here. And this is the grave of a French layman, and his grave is here, Monsieur Evere. And John Francis Evere was a layman who joined the Marist Fathers in Lyon in France, and Bishop Pompelia wrote back and said, bring a printing press with you. The other missionaries have got printing presses and we haven't got one, so this man, who was in his late 30s at that stage, had a 6-week course in printing, bought a printing press, came to Kororareka in the Bay of Islands, and began the first printing press in New Zealand for the Catholics. And that, of course, is still up there in the Bay of Islands. In 1850 he came to Wellington with Bishop Viard and began to teach secondary school. He brought with him not only a printing press, he brought several musical instruments, and artists' gear, and he taught 7 or 8 different subjects when he came here. And he died and is buried here.
There's nothing to mark his grave?
We just know from the plans he's under here.
Oh,
So the French embassy are very keen to have a new headstone restored to mark this particular man's ministry. Quite a number of lay Frenchmen came, but yes. Trying to keep a record of where the graves are, and later we'll come and actually define more clearly.
These are the Sisters of Mercy here. Sister Mary Agatha Simoneau, died in 1891. Sister Mary Aloysius Golder, died in 1880. Sister Mary Catherine McElroy, died in 1878. Sister Mary Frances Dwyer, died in 1885. Sister Mary Coleman Kennedy, died in 1888.
So these are the first group of sisters who came to Wellington, and as you can see from the names, there's an Italian name, an English name and Irish names. So that's quite interesting.
We had other sisters from the Golder family.
Yes.
Later, there was Sister Mary, what's her name now? She was an artist.
Yes.
Golder. Oh no, that was a Golder, wasn't a Golder. Sister Mary Christopher was her name. Yeah.
So
wrong name.
And the rest of Wellington, looking out there over the Government House and the Carillon, and so we have here 2 examples of the wooden surrounds which have survived, and that is the McLaughlin family, and the wood itself has been protected in the past because there were quite big trees here, and unfortunately we've got 2 examples of the original wooden surrounds. They're quite solid, but as you can see, trees have been taken away and out of the grave as well as alongside.
I marvel at how these people survived Wellington climate back in those days. So we owe it to them, I think.
That's right.
Right, now you've seen what's going on in the clean-up at the Mount Street Cemetery, and if you'd like to help us out, you can contact us through the website www.mountstreetcemetery.org.nz.